3 years gone before anyone knew it. And 3 years is a good time, isn't it, to look back on what's been, what hasn't, what might be, what might not be. It also begins to feel almost like the beginning of a countdown to the next election. So where lies the balance? Let's join some very distinguished friends here. Mr. Pankaj Patel, FICCI President, the big farmer man from India. Jyotsna Suri, the former FICCI President and hotelier. And Devin Narang, the man of the sun, on whom the sun shines and who would like it to shine on very many more. Mr. Patel, you know, we are sitting here in London, and surely the international forum has been a priority for Mr. Modi. In that area of priority, pharma seems to come first. Would you give us an idea? How many lives around the world have Indian generic medicines saved?
So I think I can give you numbers in terms of how much of medicine is being exported out of India. I think this is the only industry which has medicine available, produced in India, in every country of the world. It means like we have become a pharmacy of the world. If you take example, for example, US, the US, every third prescription which doctor writes for US patient is filled with the medicine produced in India.
Well, that's the US. And what about countries like Africa, areas like Africa?
So I would have started from Africa and told you that also in Africa. But I think it's a similar thing happens in Africa. If you look at the children program, the EPI program, vaccination program, almost 75% of the EPI vaccine supply in the world is happening out of India. If you look at the ARV medicine, the
antiretrovirals, yes.
Almost 80% of the world antiretroviral medicine is supplied out of India.
So all that medicine has saved lives around the world.
Right.
And what more influence could India have than to save lives?
Definitely India has not only saved life but also helped government after government to save millions of dollars in their healthcare budget. Be it NIH in UK or be it US healthcare program. The saving which US healthcare program has got because of quality medicine supplied from India at a very economical price, a significant amount. The estimates which I read and believe is runs into several $billion.
Jyotsna, you're a hotelier and you know you're into real estate, and this traditionally has been an Indian love in business. Hotels, real estate, Indians love businesses they can touch. IT is changing that a little bit. We are going more and more into services now, of course. Do you think there's room for both abroad?
Room for more hotels, if you mean. Overseas, yes. I think Indian companies or Indian hoteliers definitely should step out of India, like I have done. And I'm sitting right here in a beautiful 180-year-old Grade 2 listed building which has been restored as a hotel.
Where everyone says namaskar when you enter.
Where everyone says namaskar, and the good thing is that the foreigners are responding with the same kind of dignity of doing the namaskar. So I think Indian hotels, Indian hospitality definitely has a huge scope stepping out of the Indian shores.
With an Indian touch, not Indians trying to do the Western thing in the West.
Well, I mean, of course, every hotelier has his own way of expressing his hotel or his need, but I certainly feel that for me at least it is to bring India wherever I go, and therefore in this, like I said, this beautiful heritage building which is a Victorian stroke Edwardian edifice, we've got Indian culture and it's worked very well. So I think the Indian hospitality business or Indian hoteliers certainly should step out. And yes, when you talk about services and talk about IT, actually hospitality itself is changing drastically. You are no longer just dependent on people-to-people connect. You have to connect through the internet and through IT, and your bookings are done differently. For example, here in this hotel, we don't have a reception counter. You are actually booked in on an iPad. So technology has taken its turn.
So the namaskar has replaced the reception.
There is, the namaskar is how you're welcomed, and thereafter which technology takes over.
Excellent, excellent. May the sun shine on your hotel for long, and you'll tell us more about that, sir. You know, when Mr. Modi went to Paris, he launched the International Solar Alliance. Now, that is going beyond India's very ambitious solar project for itself. India is looking outside to more than 100 countries in that alliance. Where do you see India placed within that alliance, not just for itself, but for other countries?
Well, I think, as you are aware, that 4 countries have already signed the alliance. Others are ratifying the resolution and the memorandum, the charter for the alliance. I think it's a very positive step to get all the countries involved in this International Solar Alliance. Now, what it will eventually lead to is better pricing for the consumers, because you will have a global reach of so many megawatts being created.
But who will produce? Who will sell to who?
Well, that's a very interesting question. The jury is still out. As you know, that 2 days ago another US company filed for bankruptcy. And at this moment there is more capacity available than demand. So you are seeing the module prices actually going down. What is actually happening is, I mean, who will supply is that, I'll give you an example. Day before yesterday we were in Vienna, and the response to the minister's trip was so positive that we've already got 2 companies wanting to do Make in India. And that's been very positive.
Solar.
For solar, for a new kind of a solar technology.
Which is what?
Which is a flexible kind of solar tech, sort of a module. Then we've got, at this moment, the modules are mainly coming from China, Malaysia, these parts of the world. But I think with the impetus which the government is now considering for manufacturing solar components, where they've achieved the first aspect of getting the solar pricing down, I think the next will be a huge thing on Make in India.
Mr. Patel, you are not just a farmer man, you are heading FICCI, you take an overarching view of Indian businesses. We've seen what's been happening with IT and with other services in India, call centers and whatnot. Well, that's almost passé now. But what do you see as the next big step for India outside of India?
So I think for Indian companies, the next big step is to innovate. India has to start getting into technologies which are developed indigenously, which could be useful for global markets, and which can actually give a boost to Indian manufacturing industry.
But do we have enough R&D budgets?
I think we do have R&D budgets. We cannot compare our R&D budgets with what happens in the West. But at the same time, we also have to understand that our cost of doing R&D is also significantly lower. My estimate is that it is like 1/4 or 1/5 of the cost of doing R&D in India compared to what it costs in the West. So if you look at from that perspective, we have money. Question is, it's a push in the industry and the government has to make. I think the next big thing after Make in India is going to be Innovate India.
Jyotsna, you've got this fabulous hotel in London that we are sitting in, and you've been talking about post-Brexit. Would you do a hotel like this in Frankfurt?
Well, it's a difficult question to answer because, well, post-Brexit in Frankfurt?
Yes. Or Paris?
Well, I mean,
Nice, you name it.
Paris is, of course, extremely expensive. So whether it was pre or post-Brexit, for me, it seemed to be a very difficult place to make my mark in.
The EU, let's say.
So I would like to be, of course, I'd like to expand. This is not the end, this is actually the beginning. And once we establish ourselves here, there's no reason why we should not open hotels in other parts of Europe as well. Paris is a place that I think any hotelier would love to be in, any hospitality player. It still has the largest number of inbound tourists and it continues to remain in that top position over the last 20 odd years. So I mean, as a hotelier for business sense, Paris certainly is a place I'd love to be in. However, it's formidable in terms of pricing. And however, if I get a good deal like I did manage one here, I would certainly love to do a hotel.
So it's the deal that will matter, whether this is EU or the UK, one side of the channel or the other, who cares?
I mean, it's not that who doesn't, I mean, you don't, of course you care, it's not that. However, it's the deal and the return of your investment that actually goads you into going into a hotel. and location matters a lot. So for me, this location was extremely special. This part of London has been kind of not exposed enough. However, it's the oldest part of London. The most historical part of London happens to be here.
Next to the Tower Bridge.
That's right. So I was very happy to be here. Similarly, if I find something in Paris or something in Frankfurt, maybe Frankfurt is a little bit of a difficult position to be in, perhaps because of the language. It could be slightly difficult. Paris is easier. But of course, I think for us, a natural choice was London. Since one is so familiar with London, since there has been a great relationship that has existed over the years, language being the most important aspect for us to be able to get understood or to understand. However, this is not the end, this is the beginning.
So staying with India, expanding abroad, and considering what policies of the government may help or hinder this effort, you know, the promise with solar seems to be to small scale it, to get it onto the rooftops. That program is not going particularly well. You know, rather than have these huge solar fields feeding the grid, the rooftop kind of model works well. If it is to be efficient, do you see Indian production in that field working in India and abroad?
So I think two things. I think the next thing is, now that there has been a price discovery in ground-mounted solar, and of course wind and bioenergy, I think the next thrust is going to be rooftop solar in India. And with the proper policy which has already been put in place, and the government actually encouraging people to go for that, with net metering and other things, I think that is going to be the next area of expansion, both in retrofitting the existing buildings and in new buildings. Hopefully the government should bring a law that future buildings should all be absolutely environment friendly, with all kinds of techniques of renewable energy, you know, and I think that is what the government would do. I think the second opportunity which you mentioned about its impact abroad, if I heard you correctly, is the opportunity for Indian industry to invest in technology abroad, which can then come into India and get a huge market and the cost come down.
You mean India pays for R&D and technology abroad to then import it back and then scale it up?
No, what I meant was India invests indirectly, yes, but India invests in companies abroad who cannot find scale in their own countries, but India offers the opportunity for scale. So it's a double whammy for Indian companies, because they can really make a huge amount of profits, or whatever you want to call it, because they control the technology which is being developed, and it's commercialized in a country like India, which offers massive scale.
Talking of scaling up, finally, Mr. Patel, what could or what should the Modi government do to scale up, to improve its policies over the next 2 years at least, to see that industry is supported within India and supported to expand abroad if it so chooses to do?
I think the current environment is very supportive. I think what industry needs is a demand push, with the kind of extra money which is put in the hand of people through the last budget, and also through the huge investment which is currently going on infrastructure area. We would see demand going up. My view is the industry is very much geared up from a policy perspective. Not much is to be required to be done now for supporting industry to invest. What industry would only invest when the demand picks up. And I think as the infrastructure investment has picked up now, we can see demand also going up. And we will see in the next maybe 12 months private investments coming into the Indian market as well.
Jyotsna, what could Modi do to help you say more namaskars around the world?
I think he's already done a huge amount, you know. He's carried brand India so successfully on his shoulders, and he's carried it to whichever country he's visited. So I think we're very grateful to him. If you ask me, the best brand ambassador for India is Mr. Modi himself.
Solar or non-solar, what kind of policies do you think the government can improve on to help a businessman like you produce more and sell better?
Well, I think the work started about 3 years ago, And what I believe, the government has now put the, the roots are now very strong of a tree. And it's now for Indian industry to actually reinvest, reinvent themselves and, make sure that the tree blossoms as fast as possible. What the industry's done in the past couple of years is actually become more efficient, right? And you've already seen demand picking up, whether it is in cement, whether it is in the traditional brick and mortar industry. And I think that is just the beginning. So I am very bullish, and I think achieving GDP growth rate targets upwards of 7-8% is not a dream. It will be a reality soon.
Well, I was going to say thank you to all, but inspired by Jyotsna, I'm going to say namaskar and thank you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Namaskar.